Hello, Root and Vine. Welcome to week 39 of Reasons to Hope. I'm Kate Tucker, and I am so grateful to be on this journey with you, writing the book of hope together for 39 weeks now, taking time every day to note things that we are thankful for, and then getting together on Mondays at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to talk about what's giving us reasons to hope. So, some of you may have been with us last week at a special prime time slot with Dr. Debbie Bell Turner. She was talking about her new book, Courageous Faith. So I want to hear from you throughout this Reasons to Hope and throughout the week on ways that you are taking that amazing insight that Debbie shared with us about courageous faith and looking at failure as an opportunity to reconnect with God's plan for us and to really think about ways that failure might be paving the path or laying the foundation for a bigger success far beyond what we could maybe imagine on our own, but something that God has in store for us. So on that note, there is someone very special I want to invite to join us in a moment. But if you haven't been over to rootandvinenews.com today, he has written a very beautiful piece on story and what story means, having a good story and the power of story in our lives, which I think really takes us from what Debbie was sharing last week into kind of a wide open landscape of examining what types of stories we're telling for our own lives and what kind of a bigger story are we possibly part of. So without further ado, I'm going to figure out how to invite my dear friend from youth group days, like way back, OG, Daniel Dunnivan. He is a writer, dad, husband, and his wife Kristen is so amazing, and I think she might be at work, so she might not be able to join us today, but yay, you're here.
Hey,
It
Kate.
worked. Hi,
We
how
figured it
are
out.
you?
I'm real close. There we go. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
We go back.
Yeah. We could actually, how about I was looking through our wedding photos. We had our anniversary this past weekend, and it's our 21-year anniversary, and you played at our wedding. So saw
I
some good pictures of you from back in the day.
That was the sweetest, most beautiful wedding, and congratulations on 21 years. That seems impossible.
I
Like,
know. Our marriage is now older than we were when we got married. It's crazy.
that's insane. You know, I think that Scott and I wrote that song for you guys. So that's your own special song.
Yeah, thank you. It was
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. I have no idea what it was, but I'm sure that like we meant it with all our heart and it was totally inspired by you, so it must have been great.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so catch me up to now. We've talked a little bit, but I would love for you to share, you talk about story, and I don't want to give it away because I want people to go to Root and Vine and read your beautiful story and kind of that whole way that you look at the world. But that's been a thing with you. One thing I take away from like knowing Daniel Dunnivan is you're an excellent storyteller, and you're always thinking about ways to kind of see the story unfold, and you're trusting the path, you're trusting the journey. So I want to know, like right now, you're pastoring a new church. How is the story unfolding these days?
Well, yeah, it's been quite a journey, and it's funny because I do think of life as a story, and it has given me so much hope in the dark moments, but it's not usually in the dark moments that I remember it. It's after I've come out of them that I look back and I go, oh, that was a really good part of the story, because no story is good without those negative turns and dark moments. And so I would say we're in a really good part. I feel like we've come through a lot, just like everybody. I mean, 2020 was such an awful year, awful year for
Yeah.
humanity. And that was when we were in the thick of trying to plant a church. And so we launched Red Oaks Church Easter of 2021, but it was really in the heart of the pandemic that we were trying to launch a church. And yeah, it was just so challenging. So many things where I feel like story really did, push me through. And now that I'm on the other side of it and we've launched, we have a church that's thriving. I look back and see how good God was in the midst of all those dark times.
Mm. Tell me about where you are. Where's the church? How is it situated in the community?
Yeah, so we are located within another church, and so this is really, I think, a part of the good story that God told was we couldn't find anywhere. So we're looking for places for like 2 years. Uh, Pandemic happens, everything shuts down, and then we were really looking. This past like winter of 2021, where we live, everything was like purple. I mean, nobody was opening their doors to us. We were looking to be in the community. We wanted to be and want to be a local church, a church that's on mission where we live, rooted where we live. And so we were looking for, renting space from a local school, and no school. I mean, I asked them like every other month, how about now? Because they kept saying
Right.
no for right now, but if things get better, and every time I called them, they're like, no, it's still a no for us.
Oh,
And we got down to we were like a month away from our launch date, so we were geared up to launch at Easter, and we were at like March, no place for us. And I felt like I had searched every corner of the globe. I was cold calling churches, like begging anybody who has a basement, could you open your doors for us? And it was a no from everyone. And then we were 1 week away from having to postpone our church launch. And we got a random phone call from a church a minute from me, like from where we live, right in the area where we were hoping to be. And they're a church that's been there since the 1950s, and beautiful church building, beautiful people. And they were down to like 30 people, just over time and age, and then the pandemic. And they had heard that River Tree, our parent church, that they had church planters, and they cold called River Tree saying, do you have a church planter in our area? We just want to see some life in our church again, and we would love to bring someone in if you have somebody near us. And when we got that phone call, we were like, yeah, I mean, I could literally ride my bike there, like
that's
to
so
this
cool.
church. And
Yeah.
so we met with them, and their elders, and just such sweet people, and their heart for the community, and just their kingdom mindedness, that they would open up their home to us, another church, and link arms with us. We live in an area where there's a lot of territorialism, where there's a lot of division. And so
Mm.
it did my heart so much good to have another church say, we want you within our four walls, and we want to be neighbors with you and help you and partners with you. So yeah, we meet there 9 a.m. on Sundays, and then they meet at 10:45, and we're just good neighbors. Like we help each other. We are partnered together, sharing resources, and some of their people come to our service as the morning contemporary service, and then go to theirs, and we've gone to some of their services, and so it's just been a really awesome thing, where I was in such a dark moment in our story, and didn't know, how things were going to turn around. And then, God just opens a crazy door for us. So it's
It's
pretty
so
awesome.
cool. I love the generational element, how, the elders in the community who have been serving that community for so long are now saying, we want to bring you in, and this is a way that their church will stay alive, for
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah.
So amazing. And then you've had another church you were telling me about come in and collaborate as well. It's like a giant collaboration now happening.
Yeah. So also, like a minute from our house, is a really awesome Catholic church called Christ the Servant Parish. And they also have a school called Our Lady of Peace. And they're doing just incredible things in the community. Their school, reaches so many of the kids in Canton City, who are, just in need of a better education, and they provide incredible education. And so they're doing an awesome job. My wife, Kristen, got a job as an auxiliary clerk working for them just 2 years ago. And so through that, and some other relationships with River Tree, uh, I got a call one day from Father Lou from Christ the Servant Parish, and he said, I want to bridge the divide in our community between Catholics and Protestants. And he said, we do a really good job of reaching the city, but we don't actually know our neighbors. They're in a neighborhood, so they're just surrounded by houses. And they said, we don't actually know our neighbors. And we know that you're a local church that's right down the street from us, and our neighbors are your neighbors. What if we work together for the good of our community? And so we, had several meetings with them about what would a partnership look like as Protestants and Catholics. And the first event we did was back in August, and we threw a big back to school block party in the neighborhood. So they have a basketball court it's not their basketball court, it's a park that's right next to them that people go to all the time and play basketball and, swing on the swing set and everything. So we rented out an ice cream truck, gave away like 200 ice cream cones to people. Like just the neighbors just came out. We played basketball and we had a live band there, and we played soccer, and it was just a big back to school party. So that was a huge success. And we've been continuing in this relationship with them on, well, what else can we do? Like just dreaming up ideas. And so the next thing that we're planning is a pumpkin patch in the neighborhood. So we're going to buy up a couple hundred pumpkins from a local pumpkin patch and create a pumpkin patch in the neighborhood in the city. So for families that can't go out to the farm and have this pumpkin patch fall festivities experience, we're going to bring it right to them, and we're going to literally scatter hundreds of pumpkins throughout the neighborhood so people can pick a pumpkin, decorate a pumpkin. We're going to have another live band and pony rides and hot cider, and just basically bring a pumpkin patch to a neighborhood and do it as Protestants and Catholics working together. So yeah, it's so cool. Nothing like I would have ever thought of. Like I didn't reach out to them, like they reached out to us. And I just see how our heart to want to be invested in our neighborhoods and in our community, how God is just bringing people to us that want to do the same thing. And we can do it linking arms together with other churches. So it's awesome.
So cool. Oh, that gives me reasons to hope. That's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, and I love the idea of bringing the country into the city. A little bit of like that nature that's happening that sometimes we don't have the ability to access where we live. And so that's amazing. Talk to me about that. I'm curious. We talk a lot about gratitude and the practice of gratitude, and so often people find God in nature or find this connection with God a little bit more what should I say? Like it's just like, awe and wonder out
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere. I want to know, for you, in your faith, you grew up in the city, right?
Sort of. I grew up in Canton South, so we were right on the border of Canton City, but
Yeah.
there's also farmland. But yeah, but then I spent our first, almost decade of marriage. We were in Canton City, and now I'm in a neighborhood just further north of there. So yeah, I know, not in the country, not like you grew up.
Well,
Was yours considered country? Is that I
I think
considered where you
so.
lived country?
It was a farm, yeah.
Okay.
But but yeah, I think that what I'm asking you is not a very direct question, but I want to know about like your faith and your practice of like prayer and connecting with God. Where does nature factor into that?
uh, Nature is huge for me. It actually took me a while to realize how much I needed the outdoors in my relationship with God. Even now, like I live in a neighborhood, but I take a walk every single day. And I took a walk, like a 3 mile walk just through my neighborhood. I took a walk this afternoon and just listening to music, and actually was just crying, looking at trees, listening to music.
Yes.
And I was even like, why am I so moved by just trees blowing in the wind? But it's just, you see, God is such an amazing artist. Like he is such a stunning creator. And, I I love to draw. I love to paint. And I think I'm just so floored by God's artwork because I could never, I can't capture even like a simple tree and make it look like what God did, right?
Right?
And you know, I feel like half the time while I'm walking, like my shoes should be wet with the paint of the earth that I'm walking on because I'm in that
Oh,
stunning of a masterpiece, and I just see that God is just such an incredible artist, and we are. I think Tolkien said that we are sub creators. I think is the term he used, where you know we are created in the image of the creator, and so it's just built in our DNA to create things. And but we're not at his level though. We're sub creators,
yeah.
and you know I see that in from ministry to you know everything that I do, everything that we do, that we're invited into is we're in this ruined masterpiece that God is wanting to renovate, and He's inviting us to like pick up paintbrushes and get to work, like help Him in the renovation process. And ministry is that. Ministry is a part of renovating and restoring. And so, the way long answer to your question of I do connect with God out in nature in that way. You know, I just see the beauty all around me. I walk with awe and wonder, and I see that I'm invited to join God in what He's doing. So,
I love that. I love that. And it kind of, makes me think of what you talked about earlier when we were catching up earlier this summer about being part of a good story.
mm-hmm.
So you're a co-creator with God, and you're invited to collaborate kind of in this similar way. Um, we're seeing this like human collaboration amongst the churches in your community where you're taking it beyond the building,
Yeah,
and you're taking out into the streets, and you're being, God in the streets. And at the same time, there's this kind of larger story going on for all of humankind. Talk to me about being part of a good story.
yeah, yeah. So you know, when it dawned on me that the story that God is telling is a really good story, which I didn't always know that. Like I think in my younger years, you know, I had this view of the end as this terrifying sci-fi flick where everything's gonna burn.
Yeah.
and,
Lord, the Left Behind movies, like all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that's what was going to happen, and so terrified of the end of the world because I just had this doomsday picture. And then when I came to really understand scripture for myself and understand the story that I'm a part of, I mean, Jesus was a walking, talking spoiler alert. Like everywhere he went, he's talking about good news, right? He's like, I have good news for you. And, you know, he stands up and talks about how his ministry is basically wrong things right, broken things whole, old things new, captives set free. It's like every good ending to every story you've ever seen, every movie you've ever watched, book you've ever read, the 7 basic plots that are out there. Jesus is like, that's it. All of them, I'm going to fulfill them. And you read Revelation, and it's like, you get this, tears are wiped away. All things are made new. The dead are raised. It ends in a wedding. You've got this, like, every good story that you've ever read is fulfilled at the end of Revelation. And when it dawned on me that I'm a part of a good story, one, that's my reason to hope. So, which is what I wrote about. Like the spoiler alert of scripture is my reason to hope. When I'm in dark times and I feel like, man, life is a mess and I feel like things are falling apart, I remember that that's not the story I'm a part of. I'm not a part of a tragedy. I'm a part of a really good story, a resurrection story. And so that gives me hope. But I see it played out, not just like, I'm not just looking forward to that. I am looking forward to that, but I see that Jesus is at work now, like in my community, in my life, in my neighbors' lives, in my neighborhood. And he's the one doing it, not me. So he's just inviting me to join him on mission where I live. And so story, affects me in that way. Even like I was talking about, where we had nowhere to meet, and I felt like I was on a cliffhanger in that moment. Like Like that's the moment. If you're reading that in a book, that's where you're leaning in and you're like on the edge of your seat and you're like, you know they're going to get out of this.
Yeah.
You know this isn't going to end badly. And we lived that. And then the last moment, God came through, God opened a door. And once again, I got to see that I really am a part of a good story, that God is an awesome storyteller. And then when we surrender to him and allow him to tell it and just join him, he is going to work things out for us, and he is going to open doors for us. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be tragedy along the way, but that's also a part of a good story. It's just not the ending. So sorry, I'm rambling.
I love it. You aren't. You shared a song that could be part of the soundtrack to this good story, and we put it on our Reasons to Hope playlist on Spotify. What song did you guest DJ?
Yeah, so it's Sun by Sleeping at Last, and they're my all-time favorite band, and I felt like I could have just randomly picked a song by them and been like, this is my reason to hope, because all their songs are so gorgeous and filled with hope. But Sun, especially, the lyrics talk about how we all have a universe inside of us, but we're also dust from dust, and that he kind of sets those two images side by side, which reminds me of how small and insignificant I am. I'm just dust, but that I have a universe inside of me. And then he says, and we are the apple of God's eye. And so all of that together, it just reminds me of how small I am in the scope of things, but how even within me there's a whole universe, and it just shows how huge God is, but then how I'm loved by him and cared for by him, and that even my tiny dust grain of sand life is seen by him, known by him, and he invites me, small as I am, to join him in the work he's doing. And so, yeah, that song just always fills me with hope. It's a song of light and sunshine and goodness, and it's profound and beautiful. So yeah, I hope everybody gives it a listen and check out anything else by Sleeping at Last.
Yes.
He's a master poet, brilliant musician. So yeah.
And a really kind human.
Yes.
I gave it a listen this morning, and it definitely made my Monday blues go away. So everyone, Monday Motivation, check out Daniel's song on Reasons to Hope playlist on Spotify by Sleeping at Last. And make sure you go to rootandvinenews.com and read the guest article that Daniel guest wrote for Reasons to Hope this week. It's really endearing, and I just love it. It's called Spoiler Alert. You'll find it on rootandvinenews.com. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so good to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing, Kate. It's just so awesome. So keep it up. Keep up the good work. And yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Everyone, will see you all next week at 3 o'clock Eastern for Reasons to Hope. Have a beautiful week. Take good care. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.